I talk better without this. I called the meeting for September 2nd, 2020 of the City of Apache Junction's Parks and Recreation Commission to order at 6:02. May we have a roll call for attendance, please?
Luciana Buzin,
He's here.
Frank Steinbeck,
Here.
Wayne Standich,
Here?
Heather Moeller,
Here.
Isn't it fun?
Judy Bory,
Here.
and Jesse Gage,
Here.
and we're waiting on Walker. So we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Would you stand with me to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could I have someone accept the agenda for tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the agenda as written.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. You got them down, Mary?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I need to do a roll call vote. Commissioner Gage,
Yes.
Luciana Buzin,
Yes.
Frank Steinbeck,
Yes.
Wayne Standich,
Yes?
Heather Moeller,
Yes.
and Judy Bory.
Yes.
It passes 6-0.
Okay.
All in favor.
Our next item is acceptance of the minutes of July 1st. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of July 1st, 2020.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Luciano and Heather,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Judy Bory,
Yes.
Jesse Gage,
Yes.
Luciana Buzin,
Yes.
Frank Steinbeck,
Yes.
Wayne Standich,
Yes.
Heather Moeller.
Yes.
That's 6-0 in favor.
Okay. Want to thank everybody for being here and your participation so far. Our next item is Parks and Recreation Director's Report. And I turn that over to you, Liz.
Okay. All right, thank you all as well for being here today. And we have kind of physically distanced everybody, so if you want to take it down to talk, you certainly can, whatever you feel comfortable with. Okay. Facilities update. Just wanted to share a few things. You know, as we've said before, our parks have stayed open this whole time. They were identified as an essential service. And we've been able to bring back open most all of our amenities in the parks. In that time, though, I just wanted to share with you some of the major projects that we were able to complete added some projects onto our list this last year, just so that way we could get done while we had a little bit of less events and ball fields and things like that going on. So just want to run down a few of those. I shared a couple of them in July, but we are now complete with all of these. The Multi-Generational Center received, we replaced all of the lighting in the gymnasium with LED lights, continuing a major efficiency there. We'll be having a huge savings working with SRP on a rebate program there. We will be continuing that project this year and retrofitting everything in the MGC. We anticipate having about $20,000 in annual savings by doing that, and those lights will all have paid for themselves by July. So we're very excited about that.
We did the same thing at our church gym, at the gym that we use.
Perfect, yes. We hope to see a good savings from that. The skate park fence repairs that I shared before, all of that was complete, and the full repaint of that, as well as all of the ramadas at Superstition Shadows Park. As I'd shared in May, we took back over our portion, or the rest of the park from the school district. We still have a wonderful IGA with the school district, but we will be maintaining the entire park again. And we were able to also refinish all of the irrigation and revegetate all of the grass that was out there. And so did a nice project with that in the spring and throughout the summer. So it's looking really awesome right now. Additionally, at Prospector Park, with the help of the AJ Water District, we were able to replace the entire pump manifold. That is what powers all of our irrigation system out in the parks. That park is very old. It was done in a piecemeal, so each phase was done differently. We did some of it in-house, and so it's just been on a really ancient system. And once we got that, and it was about a $25,000 project that we spent about $15,000 on because of the cooperation with the AJ Water District. They came in and proposed a solution for us and helped to make that happen. So that was another major project. So those were some of the biggest projects. We had a lot of other small cleanups and small things that we've been doing, but those are kind of the biggest ones that somebody might notice. The other thing I wanted to mention in facilities is our overseeding plan this year. So because we aren't going to be having the games and some of the things on the fields until a little bit later in the year, we are going to take this opportunity to rotate some of our overseeding fields. So Prospector Park, for example, has been overseeded since as long as I've been here, every single year. And really, you should have a year or two in there, you know, every 5 years or so, ideally every 3 years, where you would rest and not do all that work on it. We've never done that, and they do look beautiful, but we're going to take this opportunity this year to not overseed that park, give it that rest year. Additionally, it will save us water at that park. So our agreement with Arizona Department of Water Resources has a cap on the water that we can use at Prospector Park because of the amount of turf that we have and where it's located. For the last few years, we've been kind of running in the red there, and so using up credits that we created over previous years. With this new pump manifold change, some other irrigation changes, we're going to be able to get that water on track. But this would be a great year for us to save water and build back up our credit for years whenever there's a particularly dry year and we need to use a little bit more water. So we assessed all of our city facilities, and the ones that we will be overseeding this year are Flatiron, because it is still a major downtown amenity. People utilize that every day. So Flatiron, the Superstition Shadows ball field, we have not overseeded in many, many years, and so we're going to do that this year to get that one back up to snuff. The City Hall Complex Park, which is right by the playground, between the library and the multi-generational center, and then the Veterans Memorial Park. So just getting those ones back up to snuff a little bit. They're much smaller areas, and we'll still be able to save water, but also kind of rotate some of our facilities a little bit and have a little bit better plan for them. Any questions on overseeding? It's important for you guys to know, because you're going to see the park not look the way that it always has in the past. It'll look actually better all fall because we won't be scalping it and seeding it. But come January-ish or February, you'll see it looking pretty yellow as it just starts to die out, and then it will look good again, you know, in that March, April timeframe once we get sun and a little bit of more water on it. So just be aware of that. We'll keep reminding everybody. We will be doing a press release and letting folks know kind of what our plan is and keeping people aware. The other item under facilities that I just wanted to bring to your attention, this is just kind of an introductory information. This item might come back to you guys at a later date, but a citizen had brought to the city council in a call to the public an idea for erecting a large flag at Flatiron is what they were proposing, and they've started raising some funds for a 50-foot by 80-foot flag. And so it was discussed heavily last night at the city council meeting, and it was on the agenda to give direction to staff on what we'd want to do with that kind of information. And so city council, several of the city council members were interested in us at least researching what does that look like, what would that cost. This individual is working with other entities to raise the funds. The goal is that the city wouldn't pay anything for it, but that's kind of what we're researching. So we, you know, whenever we've done projects like these in the past, there's always some costs that the city does incur, and so we have been directed as the Parks and Recreation Department to research the actual costs of the flag and the flagpole. So a flag that size As I researched a little bit today, would require a 240-foot pole from my most recent contact. And 24 feet of that has to be, and then 24 feet has to be underground. It would have to be engineered, completely fabricated in order to hold that kind of a flag. But there's a lot of other factors that we want to just look into. We've gotten a lot of public input already, some emails and some different things as a result of the meeting, of whether that's a good place for it. You know, some people, I think, are in favor of it. There's people that are not in favor of it. It's a pretty small park for such a big flag. So we'll be doing a little bit of research, and I just wanted to let you know that it might be coming back to you guys for some other information. We will be sharing just some basic information with City Council in their early October meeting, and giving some input and some things to consider. And at that point, we might be given other direction. It might be given direction of, you know, this is not something that's doable, and that will be the end of it, or it might be of something that is wanting to be looked into further. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that and see if you have any questions right now, because you might hear about it a little bit more. You might see stuff more often out and about on social media or in the paper, and just wanted to make sure that you were aware.
Will it go one of the two ways, either yes, we'll look into it, or no, we're vetoing it? It's not like we can maybe scale it down a little bit?
Yeah, so I think what our direction was just to bring data and to share some information. And so they will have that opportunity. We'll be giving them some things to consider, like, you know, is there a place in the city that's appropriate for a really big flag? Maybe not that big. We do have a flagpole already at Flatiron. We only put it up for events because there's a lot of flag etiquette. There's a lot of flag things that we have to take into consideration. You know, it has to be lit. It has, you know, it can't be frayed. And so I was told a flag of this size has to be replaced every, I think she said 3 to 6 months. And so I'm going to be asking some other people because that seems really crazy. But I know our flags we have to replace very frequently because they can't be in a state of disrepair or frayed. So flag etiquette is just really, I don't think a lot of people understand all of that. And so we'll be bringing all of that back to council. You guys will also we'll have our Wednesday meeting. I will definitely share with all of you, and we'll send it out to you in advance of what we'll be sharing with council, just so that you're aware. Unfortunately, we just got the direction last night, and so we weren't able to add it as an item for us to get a lot of feedback and input. If we ever get to that stage, we'll definitely be putting it on as an action item. But right now, they're just in the research phase and the introductory kind of area. There was some other comments at the meeting, and definitely if you'd like to hear a little bit more about what people are thinking, we had a long list of things to look into, and so we are working on tackling all of those, but our direction is to have it ready for the first meeting in October. Any questions? Yes.
What you're describing is a flag about the same size as the big flag that's at Burge Ford.
Somebody mentioned that.
At 60 and Mesa
Yep.
Drive.
Mm-hmm. So they might be a great resource.
They would be.
Absolutely.
I think they would
Thank
be
you.
definite resource.
I feel like somebody mentioned that in the meeting, and I didn't take down where it was. Thank you. That's great.
It's one you see all the time.
Yep.
It would be interesting to see like an artist's conception or somebody Photoshop a flag that big into the scenario of the park, so we could see before.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. So Matt McNulty actually mentioned that he'd be willing to he's going to think through how to make that happen. And
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
additionally, I mean, I think was proposed kind of also, tourist attraction sounds wrong, and it does not sound very, that's not what I mean, but as something that people will want to come and see and get their picture taken of. Well, to get a picture taken of something 240 feet high is really hard. So Matt's going to try to work with us to give some of those details too. And so we'll just try to find all the information. You know, I think everybody's very interested in, patriotic messages and having things out there that people can be proud of. Just thinking about how we can do it in a safe and a reasonable way, and whether it's affordable.
Was that the reasoning of the person wanting to do it, or what was his?
So my understanding was that it was just a group that was feeling like they wanted to do something to recognize veterans, and they'd gone through a few other ideas, and then they kind of landed on that not long ago. I know one of the gentlemen at the call to the public last night mentioned that, there's a lot of other ways also to, recognize veterans that might also be meaningful. So I think those are all things that the council will be considering. But that was my understanding, and I'm not familiar with the individual. And I was not here at the council meeting where they brought it up in the call to the public.
That was Tuesday night's meeting, right?
Mhm.
Just last night.
Yes.
Okay.
And that concludes my report on facilities for now.
Okay. Okay, now we need a programs update. Liz? That's the next item.
Yes, and on this one, Chairman Standage, I am going to ask if I could maybe defer this portion to the COVID report, because almost everything related to recreation is kind of tied into the COVID report, so if that's okay with you.
That's fine with me.
Okay, wonderful.
So then we proceed now to old business, which is the COVID report.
Oh, first dog park
Oh,
update,
Oh,
I think,
dog
right?
park.
Am I looking at the
I'm
right one?
sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, we got dog park.
1 second. Okay. So we've talked about this many, many times, and we're really happy to be in our design phase here. It has taken a little longer than a typical design phase just because of the COVID situation and meeting and getting some of the details. It took a little while to get there, but we had our most recent meeting yesterday. Our consultant, former Park Superintendent Nick Blake, was able to met with us and the J2 staff to go over some of our pending questions and some of the information we gotten back on our 60% drawings, which is what I had shared last meeting with you guys. And so I just want to kind of give an update on the things that we have determined or that we've found since our last meeting. And we'll just go through that really quickly. You guys have in your packet you should have the rendering of the dog park. This was just the conceptual rendering, and I just want to remind you of that. This is not, so there's things in the design element that have changed a little bit since this, but this is the basic design that we can just kind of refer to so that we know which areas we're talking about. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Right now, there's nothing really that's changed conceptually or anything has been moved around. The main points, and we'll go back to this map as we need to, we reviewed 4 kind of main elements that are still kind of getting worked on right now to prepare for that 90% drawings. The first one and the most important is drainage. So that's the one area that we've all known all along. This is our 2-for-1 deal. So we're getting a dog park and we're fixing a major drainage and retention area problem that we've had for over 20 years. And so the drainage is super important, not only for the dog park so that it can, operate properly, but also so that way we can plan for storm water and making sure that we're not causing any additional problems when we work to change the landscape a little. So the drainage, the goals there was to have maximum capacity and efficiency of drainage so that it's draining at the rate that we need it to, not water sitting there like it currently does. And then we need to tie that with the ease of maintenance. So that was one of the things I shared last time that, is a little challenging. It's going to be a little bit more expensive adding in that concrete at the bottom, but it's super critical for maintenance reasons. And we'll go back to the slide here in a minute, and I'll show you a couple of things that we've discussed on that. The other really important thing, so while that is our, our priorities, if it's not safe for dogs and the dog owners, then it's not going to be good either. And so we've worked a lot on trying to figure out what was going to be the best scenarios for that. So I'm going to attempt to backtrack. And then, okay. So just as a reminder for drainage, the idea is that when a large event comes in, so we have over on the other side of Superstition at the PD, there's a retention pond there. So drainage typically comes from this down from the Superstitions kind of southwest is kind of how it flows. And so it typically, so as it comes through the PD area, it comes through a channel in there and some drainage pipes, and then it flows under the road and comes into this area right here through this spillway. So this is an area that they have spent some time on and making sure that it's going to be adequate and work properly. They put in these low flow swales so that in a regular event, whenever it just rains hard, the idea is that it's going to feed right into those and not go to the dog park at all. Only the rain that comes down from the sky is the only thing that's going to be on the dog park itself.
Yeah.
But in an event where there's water on the road or flooding down, it's going to flow through this low flow swell channel. And most of our events will be taken care of through that. Almost, I don't know what the percentage is, but almost everything will be taken care of by taking it around our dog park so that our grass does not get sitting underwater. We don't have to close it every single time, all those kinds of things. In the event of a rainstorm that is much higher, we get lots of days of rain, it will spill over and some of it will be able, this is still going to be a retention basin, so it will still be capturing water. So that way we can slow the water down so that as it goes into the downtown area, it isn't causing any problems down there. And so the biggest goals are to be able to really control the water, to slow it down, to make sure that we have high capacity so that way we can keep it as long as we need to before it gets let, I can't go any farther. So that as it comes out under the road down to the other drainage channels, that it's going into that wash and being able to go there in a slow and efficient way, and not overwhelming the rest of the washes southwest of the park. And I don't think that's nothing new. Like I said, though, in these, so we had some issues with it was going to be riprap in here. Regular gravel, so that way it was a little more cost effective. But after really going through the considerations with our maintenance staff, after our meetings that we've talked about several times, we're just going to have them put into it's not going to be an alternate. We're going to be putting into the plan to have concrete at the bottom. And then it'll have a little bit of a lip up that will kind of match up on one side. The far side, we are looking at a proposal of riprap on the far side because that side is not, wouldn't be as traveled, I guess is what I'll say. But the side that's closest to the turf will be pretty smooth, and it will go into the sidewalk area and up into this area. Dogs, for the most part, aren't going to have trouble with it. We just want to kind of reduce the chances that somebody's, and usually in the dog park, people don't have their dog on a leash, and so they're not going to get pulled through areas. But making sure that it's a safe transition so that people, aren't walking over. It'll be rocks that are smoother. It's not not slippery, smoother, not angular rocks like some riprap can be, but making sure that it's a very safe setting. So that's been kind of one of the big issues there. And in addition, and you guys might have some questions on drainage and we'll stop, but the other part about drainage is that we've shared the drainage memo and all the reports that fed into this design with Sam Jargis in the Development Services Department, as well as Emil Schmidt in Public Works, so that they could review, and they've given their comments and are currently reviewing some of the final plans. And so that's kind of where we're at on drainage in general. Questions?
No, it sounds good. Doesn't matter what we try. If there is such a deluge, it's still going to go down into the park some. It may
Absolutely.
overflow.
And we just
And
wanted
I
to kind
have
of
no
minimize it a
problems
little
with
bit.
that.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's see if I can work this. Yes. Fencing is another, so, other than the grass, so it's really the grass, the fencing, the drainage part of it. Those are the three biggest things that are going to feed money in the park. We wanted shade, but we have lots of great shade. We'll be adding some. So, we've been able to capture all the things that the community mentioned that they wanted. Fencing is really important, and so we have had experience in lots of different fencing applications over time. Things that skate park fence is a great example of something that, after 20 years, it's just rusted away at the bottom, especially when it's near water sources. And this fencing will be near turf. Mm-hmm. And so our design team did look at what they've done in other dog parks throughout the state. And And also in other applications, other parks, other facilities. And the Omega fence was selected because it's super durable. It does have a powder coat finish on the top of it. I'm going to start these around to Judy, and I just want to mention the main part of the fence will look kind of like this, and it goes down. And then there's a few other little stronger pieces that are for different applications. And as we get that 90% design, again, anybody that wants to kind of come and see it and look to see, you know, where we're calling out what, where, you're welcome to do so. But I wanted just to bring that so you could kind of feel it and look at it. The other reason why this is selected is because it's kind of blends into the environment. So it's not that real institutionalized, you know, wrought iron fencing that looks like you can't be there. And it's not chain link fence, so it's not, you know, we wanted it to be high quality. You know, this is our first one, and we don't want to just throw up some fencing and things like that. Is more on the costly end, but it's definitely something that is going to survive over time. We won't be replacing it as frequently as we would other types of applications, and so I think we're really happy with this. It comes in a lot of different colors, but they'll be working on the color scheme next. Couple of other things I just think is important, especially for those of you that, you know, have a little bit more of a construction background or mind and are interested. This is customizable, so we do have, because there are some areas obviously where there's a little bit of rolling hill, or it might be crossing a drainage channel. We do have a lot of different applications where panels will be customized, and you know, they're not just going to be cut off at that rectangular. They're going to be angled and done in a really highly aesthetic way, so that we can be very proud of it. I already talked about all of that. There are, at all of the areas where they cross the drainage channel, there will be a breakaway piece, so that way if the water is coming in really heavy, it won't knock our fence down. So if you have a big rain event and it's coming through and it's a solid fence structure without any kind of give, it's going to pull all of those posts out. It can do a lot of damage. And so the way that it will be designed is that the fence can open up. So if it gets enough pressure on it, it will open, and it'll let that water out and hopefully not do quite as much damage. Questions on fencing? Okay. Lighting, we've talked about this many, many times. I shared this with council when we did our first go through with all of this. We are proposing solar lighting at this park. It's a great opportunity for a green infrastructure type of application. It's not a ball field that needs really high level lighting. There definitely is a need for lighting and all of that. The one thing that we also talked about with solar lighting is that, as you recall, we don't have a budget for this park. We're using development, well, I take it back. We have a budget. We don't have we're not using general fund money for this. We're not using taxpayer dollars for this project. And so we are going to be in the process of raising those funds, and we'll talk about that here in another slide. Our concern is we want to keep this momentum going. We want to build the park in this next year or so, and we have money to be able to build the majority of it. And so if we were shy, say $100,000 or so, then maybe the solar lighting would be an alternate that would be the next phase. So then we'd continue fundraising, and when we had that money, then we'd be able to put in solar lighting. By going with solar, we're able to do that without, you know, digging in a bunch of stuff, without getting in conduit. The cost of putting in solar lighting and pulling electricity and all that kind of stuff to it is almost the same. So this is just one of those times where it just makes sense to do something that is a little bit more green infrastructure. It'll be much better electricity, you know, obviously utilities-wise later down the road, but just a very smart thing to do. And it'll be a great application for us to try this out on and see if it might work in other amenities that we have throughout the community. So just as a reminder, though, while lighting is important, as we talked to community members early on in the phases, and the groups that did come out and visit the site and gave feedback shared that lighting is not a deal breaker. It's important, and we want to strive to get it, but we want the park open before we worry about it. So again, if it wasn't open at dark for a shorter period of time or for a year, that we still would at least be able to use it all the rest of that time. And we would be working very hard to get that solar lighting in immediately. When we get to funding, we'll talk about that a little bit more. I feel very good that we're going to be really close to getting the funding that we need, and even if we don't have it, we'll have it closely thereafter. Yes.
Liz, isn't most of the usage going to be during daytime, though?
You know, so
Or maybe into
it's-
the afternoon before
to
the
some
sun
degree.
sets?
But for people that
Yeah.
work, you know, their time frame is more in the evening time when they get home from work. And I would say that during summer months, especially, you know, people want to go when it's a little bit more cooled off.
All right.
But truly here in Arizona, I mean, it's still light at 8 o'clock at night in the middle of the summer, or 7:30 at night. And so we'll kind of play that by ear. I think we'll have a lot of daytime usage, but I think just being in Arizona, we would, you know, we would want to have opportunities for people to come whenever it is, you know, darker and a little bit cooled off. So,
Okay.
okay, good question though. And then artwork, so let's see if I can do this correctly. Maybe. Okay. So artwork for the park, we had talked about, the Arts Commission will be weighing in on this part of it. You'll have a say also, you'll be able to give some feedback, but ultimately, the way that our new code for our Arts Commission and our art ordinance here in the city calls for having new projects would have a certain percentage of the overall budget has got to go. We're very pleased. We're very happy that it's going to go towards art. And so the Arts Commission does help to review those and help to give suggestions. So this will be a great first project, I think. Well, I think they've had a few other projects as well, but it'd be a great project for that group. I am actually presenting to the Arts Commission this month, and we'll be kind of sharing some of the thoughts, sharing just the park plan itself, and just getting a little bit of direction from them on how they anticipate approaching, I guess, recommending and talking about art there. We haven't done a lot of that yet here in Apache Junction. We haven't had this scenario with an Arts Commission, and so I think we're all kind of learning what that's going to look like, and we definitely want them to have a good handle on how they want that process to look. We did ask J2, the staff at J2, to put together just some ideas for us so that we could share. At the last meeting, I had shared with all of you that we were given some ideas from community members as well as staff. They had talked a little bit about having things that, I'll kind of get to it really quickly. This is not a great example, but you know, like the cows that they're kind of plain, and then they give artists the chance to either bid on them or to decide that they want to paint them, and then each artist paints a cow the different way, and I don't know what state that's in, but it's cool, and everybody...
Wisconsin has a lot of those.
You should know, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
You probably told me last time, too, and I forgot. So they just kind of threw some ideas in here that there might be ways of incorporating that into a dog or a fire hydrant or just some small pieces that would be put throughout the park. It could be expanded to other places in the city as well, but that could be one cool idea. They put a lot of other ideas of art just to give some examples of things that are at dog parks. And I don't know what this is. I think that flag is the flag is part of this. It looks like a brain right there to me, but I'm...
Probably a helmet.
He's a hat.
So,
The helmet.
okay, oh, that is really cool. Okay, very good.
A Desert Storm one.
So the pedestals, what they were showing, of that you can have pedestals and have art on them. I don't think these were ideas for the art, but just more of like what you could place the art on top of. Let me see, I skipped some things up at the top here. These are things that you might be able to put on the fencing. This was a project that I asked them to include because Kurt Monte with J2 was describing at Mustang Transit Center. They incorporated art into that design there, and as I talked to their community members and the artists that was commissioned to do this area, they wanted to incorporate, it's this sort of desert habitat, but they wanted to incorporate what do people do while they're waiting for the bus or while they're waiting for things. You know, they read or they look on their devices and things like that. So then they decided to make it kind of a birds and books. And so scattered throughout the entire site are these little, I'm going to try to bring this up a little bit more. Oh, here we go. maybe, it might be too grainy. So different books, and you can actually see what's on the pages in the books in real life. And then birds, different types of birds, and it all was encompassed in this entire story of why story for books. But then they have a little bit of, education on what it was about and how it came to be. So I'm not saying that we would do that, but you could come up with other ideas that just gives an idea of if you wanted to create a theme or you wanted to create something that people could search and find at the park or other reasons for people to kind of be there. So we'll be just sharing this with the Arts Commission and let them start thinking about what they envision. And so I think I mentioned last time, if you had some ideas, feel free to share them. I don't know if you have some thoughts today.
What about memory path, like,
Great idea. So Judy said a memory path. And so can you explain that a little bit? Just talk into your microphone a little.
just, memory, like pavers with your dog's
Okay.
name on it, the ones, that have passed
Yeah.
away or whatever.
Yeah,
something like that,
absolutely.
Or,
Oh, yeah.
We talked about also, Jamie Sullivan in our office mentioned dog tags. And so I don't know if you've seen, like in Paris, they have the
Lock.
fence with the locks. And I know we talked about this last time, but I'll just say it again. Having something like that with dog tags. And it doesn't have to be for a dog that has passed away. It could be you get a second dog tag for your dog and put it on there. And the idea is that it would be covered in just one panel. And that would be another memory option that the art could consider. Kurt also shared this, and I'll see if we can see it well enough. This isn't exactly what he was thinking, but I think I'm going to get to, okay, yeah. So this is not a good, it's pretty grainy, but this is in another place. And so they basically stacked a whole bunch of little things and they blow in the wind and they're like chimes. And I'm not, so he was, yeah, right. And so he was saying that maybe there was something you could do with dog tags with that. And so if there was a good lead wire and then you connect them and then it kind of spins in the wind and it kind of makes more of a rattling sound. So he had thrown together just a few ideas that we'll be sharing with the Arts Commission, and those can fit right neatly into the memory path idea as well. So things for the dogs. Just trying to think of unique ways of doing something that everybody else does, and we just kind of want to do it in a different way.
in an AJ way.
Yes, in a, yep, we are AJ way. Other ideas or thoughts on art that you would like me to make sure that I share?
Any thoughts on like functional art for the, they have those obstacle courses for dogs and things like that?
Absolutely a possibility. I think the one that was the bone was kind of like something that they could climb on and get on. They are proposing in the project boulders that dogs could climb, that are designed specifically for that and for safety and everything like that. So I think that those are definitely some other ideas, but I wrote that down. Functional art. It's a great idea.
Will they be using boulders as seating benches
So-
rather than regular benches, or?
There are benches throughout the park. They're more like the ones at Flatiron, where they don't have a back. They're just fit more into the design element of the park. And then some of the boulders, you could easily sit on them or dogs could climb on them. They'd be in multiple places. Yep. I think that's everything. Oh, we'll start this again. So that's everything for artwork. So those were kind of the four main things that we talked about in this last review. They're working on the 90% drawing plans. Sam is working on the drainage stuff, and so we are hoping to get back our 90% drawings this month, maybe into October a little bit, if it goes a little long, or if we have to go back and forth very much on the drainage stuff. So we've gone back and forth a little bit on some things that we liked or didn't like. We are trying very hard to utilize as much of the space for the dogs as possible. So it's already a smaller area. Once we've all visited down there, we can see that it can be very big and open, but we think it's going to get utilized. And so we want to be able to maximize all of the usable space for the dogs as possible. So the other things that are kind of on the radar for next steps, we're working on our intergovernmental agreement with Pinal County. So Kent Taylor, their parks director, and I have worked closely over the last year and a half on the project. He's, kind of been our go-between to kind of share with our county manager. We've met with County Supervisor House at the time whenever this was first thought of, and so we have had their continual blessing to kind of keep going, and then we'll be working on the details of the IGA. They are, obviously this is a park for the county as well, and so it's BLM property. I just want to remind everybody. They have a recreation and public purpose lease for their whole area. They're able to use part of it for their municipal buildings. I'm sorry, not municipal, county buildings, governmental buildings, and then the other part has always been identified as a park. We maintained it for the drainage and the trees that are there. It's not even really needing to be changed because it was a park and it will continue to be a park. So we'll be ironing out all of that. And then funding sources, we are sitting at just under $600,000 right now as of today's date. And that pot of development fee money is growing probably about $20,000 a month. We have a lot of growth going on. They are anticipating the growth to continue. They haven't seen a slowdown at all in permits being pulled and all those things. And so once applications are submitted and those permits are moved forward, then the money gets brought in. And so we've been gaining about $20,000-ish a month, sometimes a little higher, sometimes a little lower. And Larry Kirch, our Development Services Director, feels that, that looks like things are going to continue moving in that direction. So that's a good chunk of money towards the, this is probably going to be at the end of the day $1 million project just because of where we're at. We estimated 800,000. Just with things that are changing in the market, we don't know what it's going to look like, and it could easily, get there between that 800 and $1 million. Corporate partnerships, just like in the past, we will be doing a corporate partnership campaign like we did for Flatiron Park, and visiting with larger businesses that want to contribute. Certainly small businesses can participate in other ways as well, but some of those big groups that want to donate in those tens of thousands and 50,000 and 100,000 and those kinds of things. So we'll be working on that with some of the big groups. And then grants. So we've already talked with several of our previous grant providers that helped with Flatiron Park, and they're very interested in this project. And so Bryant Powell, our city manager, the mayor, and other folks will continue to be working with those entities to kind of keep them abreast. But we now have our 60% drawings, and so we're able to kind of go back out and share with those partners and start securing some of that funding. So this is a very, very similar to what we did with Flatiron Park, and that was very successful to be able to get that money gathered. As soon as people really see things happening and know that it's happening, that's generally when we see people wanting to commit their money. So we'll be moving forward in that, and we'll keep you abreast on that as we go. We have several grants that are in the planning stages right now, and most of our regular grants are like in the $20,000. So, there's no great big, huge grants for this. We found a few that might fit that we're going to be working on. We'll be working with the new grants person that they're hiring in development services here soon, and so we'll be getting all of that going. And then the last part was just citizen committee. So we will be reaching out. We feel like we are in a good place right now with the COVID spread, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more later, where we could have a small subcommittee that would be able to meet at the Multi-Gen Center and do dual Zoom or in person. If they weren't able to do Zoom, we have some big enough spaces, and we're willing to let people kind of start coming back a little bit more. And so we'll be having some opportunities for those citizen committees. We had a lot of individuals that gave input in the early stages that want to continue to be involved. They want to know how it's going, and they want to know more about the details, and they want to help out with some of those details. So we talked about that at the last meeting, that you guys were comfortable with that, and that I would work with those citizen committees. You guys are able to be a part of those, and so we'll kind of see if you are interested. You can just reach out to me. And then we're kind of looking at doing 2 focus groups. So one is going to be on more the operations, so rules and guidelines and, some of the practices, some of our operational procedures of maintenance So not so much the maintenance, but when is maintenance happening? What are going to be kind of our hours and all those kinds of things? And then another group would be working more towards the amenities thing. So again, based on what we hear from the Arts Commission, if they want more community feedback, maybe they'll help with some of that. That'll depend on the Arts Commission. But really looking at those amenities and, you know, as we start to gain things, or as we start to get, if somebody wants to, one of the grants might be for obstacle course pieces that we're going to have out there. So having kind of a citizen group that has dogs and is interested in those things would be helping us to kind of do some of those things. Any questions on the next steps or concerns or things you think you want to make sure that I don't forget? Anything else? Okay.
No questions.
All right. Then that concludes our dog park update.
Okay, the next item is Apache Trail median improvements.
Okay. All right. So this one, I'm just going to bring up a couple of pictures. I don't really have a presentation. I just want to bring you all up to speed. I know we talked about this also last meeting. So just as a refresher, the Apache Trail median in general, we created a plan to be able to revegetate that median, give it a fresh look, really go back through and make the drainage work a little bit more in our favor, but also to add native desert landscaping to it. So things that can survive without irrigation, because we did not have the funding for irrigation and that's not what we wanted to have there. We did the first phase one last fall in conjunction with Make a Difference Day, and had a lot of great volunteers that came out and helped with that planting. There was an effort to raise money for the plants. We worked with Arizona Sustainability Alliance they funded all the trees, and they also brought out a great group of volunteers that helped with all the planting. They have taken us on. They are committed that as long as they're around, that they want to help us with every phase of this project. And so they've already signed on again for this year. They've already secured all the money for the trees for the project. And then we have money already set aside that was raised that can be used for the plants that we're going to be proposing to be putting in there. This year, we are not tying it to Make a Difference Day, mainly because the Community Development Corporation is trying to have their projects a little bit more scattered about. Because of COVID, they can't have the big 100-person gathering. So they're going to be doing different projects. In addition, the thing that didn't work so well last year is that we really can't be tied to a date from now. They need a date for Make a Difference Day, and we really need to be flexible because of storms, because we are doing this project in-house. Public Works is helping with all the dirt moving and all the riprap and the channel creation. Our park staff are helping with some of that dirt moving, and then they'll be doing the granite, and they're helping with the planting. Last year, we really got crunched for time, and we really wanted to be able to do it at our pace. So the project will happen sometime at the end of October, the beginning of November. We should have a set date here at the end of September that we know for sure that we're going to be doing the date. We will have volunteer groups that will be out there, but it won't be just like an open to the public. Because it's in the road, because we are going to be having safety things, it will be a much more scaled back whole activity. But we're working with kind of our same partners. So Rubicon was another big group that helped last year, so they are proposing this to their members to be able to come out and do that volunteer group. And then the Arizona Sustainability Alliance, they will have a big group of volunteers that will come up. And then we will open up, if people are interested in helping out, they'll be able to reach out to us, and we'll have a planned way that they can get involved that day. So then I was just going to show you a couple of quick pictures. This one is hard to visualize, but I'll just show it to you anyways. So this is Ironwood Drive right here. And then this is going east towards the Superstition. So then there's two little sections. Well, they're big sections, actually. They look little here, but they're actually pretty big. These are the two sections that we're doing this time. And as I shared before, the reason why we are not continuing from the point we had before, we started on the far west end and the far east end, and we were going to try to keep moving towards the middle. Public Works was able to get funding for one section's curb and gutter. And because the project section that we did last year didn't have it, they really want to get that on that, so that way we can help prevent some erosion and some of the other problems that might happen without it. So this year, we don't have that money. So moving forward, we're always going to budget for curb and gutter on the section that we're doing. That curb and gutter is going to be used for last year's project. So he picked an area that already has curb and gutter, and that's where we're going to start. And it's smack in the middle. So we'll have some middle section done, and then we'll have a lot of choices of where to go from there next time. So this is the plan. These are trees, and these smaller ones are some of the smaller plants. Because I was trying to make it so that I could explain it, it's upside down. But if you are interested in the plants that we're using, they're very similar to what we've already used. I want to mention on the part that we already did, some of the plants are looking still amazing, even though we've had a horrible summer, very dry. Many of the plants, though, are not looking so amazing. So I just encourage you to keep in mind, we are watering them. There's only so much water you can give to plants like that, and with the heat that we've been having. So that's just burning up their leaves and burning up a lot of pieces. Some of those will still survive. They look really bad right now, and as long as they still have a little bit of green, we're leaving them in, and we're going to continue to water and take care of them. They looked really amazing in the spring, and we're very happy with how they were progressing. They're native plants, so we're going to do our very best, and some of them will have to get replaced, and we knew that was going to happen going into it. But just want to caution you, they look rough right now, but if you look in the desert, everything in the desert looks rough, and so that's why I try to encourage people, look at that same plant out in the desert on its own, and it's really similar. So hopefully we'll have a better summer next year. Okay. And then I was just going to show you this quick picture. So these are just some things that once we got the granite in and all the riprap and the channels in there, you can't really see any of this one I think is before the planting happened. This is the area closest to Meridian. The other picture, this one is the area closest to Phelps Drive, so like down here on the Chamber of Commerce end, and Flatiron is way over here. Well, I'm sorry. Flatiron's up over here, the Chamber's up here. That's Phelps right there. Again, you can't really see the plants because they're so small, but this is kind of what that section turned into. And we'll be taking more pictures so that we can kind of keep showing each year how it's progressing. So we'll be doing that again this year. Questions on the Apache Trail median? Okay. That concludes my report on that, if you don't have questions.
Okay, now we're down to, got we the right spot now.
Yes.
We're at the COVID-19.
So last time when I presented on this, I didn't really have anything for you to look at. It was me talking a whole lot. And so while it looks like there's I wanted to make sure you had all the data in front of you. And we're just going to do a quick brief, here's where we're at, and here's what we think is going to be opening up in the future. So as we go through this. So I just wanted to kind of, as a reminder, that parks remained open during the entire closure. Some amenities were closed per the governor's order, like in the beginning, restrooms were closed for about a week, and then we learned how we could keep them open. The splash pad was closed for a little while. Certain playgrounds were closed for a couple of months, I think. So really, it's just the amenities within parks that might have had to be closed depending on what they were and the risk that was associated. As a reminder, we began reopening, and then all of our events and programs were really on hold. We couldn't be meeting in person for a certain time. We wrapped up programs, and we did a lot of virtual programming. We were able to start reopening in May following White House phased approach and the CDC guidelines. And those were pretty much revolved around physical distancing, limiting our gatherings to 10 or fewer because we were in phase 1, increased sanitization and cleaning, and then educating visitors about symptoms, as well as about them staying at home and staying away if they had any symptoms. In July, community spread had increased, and At our last meeting, we shared, kind of where we're at on that. The fitness centers and pools were shut down with some limited exceptions. So water parks themselves, large facilities like that were shut down, but we could still be at our pool and have small group classes. So there were things that we were able to continue doing, but fitness center was completely shut down at that point. So I want to just take us through, and I'm going to start with the MGC Fitness Center because it's happening it's happening this week, and we have more information on that. But each slide, I'm going to share with you what's open, and in this case, what's going to be opening, just so that you'll be aware, and then what's currently suspended, and then what are some future plans for each of the major areas in the recreation division that they manage. So the Multi-Gen Center Fitness Center, until we met benchmarks for the county, not by zip code, not by our city, but the overall county, we were not allowed to open, and we went through a lot of those processes. We learned a couple of weeks ago that you could do an appeal process if you implemented even stricter regulations. We didn't think we were going to do that because as of last week, we were pretty sure we were going to meet the benchmarks because that's the way things were trending. What we learned on Thursday is that one of the earlier benchmarks got changed from a moderate level up to a substantial level, and so we lost a week that we thought we were going to have. So at that point, we went ahead and consulted with management and talked about doing our appeal. We are very ready to be open in a small way, and we're already doing way more above and beyond what the guidelines tell us to do. So we are already reducing our numbers much more significantly. We thought the appeal process was going to take 10 days. We learned on yesterday that our appeal was approved yesterday morning. And so we hurriedly started, we thought, well, we'll just wait till next week. But as we kicked it around, we've just been getting calls from people. People really want to be able to work out in a safe way. We feel that we have enough guidance from the governor's office to be able to do that. From Arizona Department of Health Services and the governor's office. And so after talking with management, we did decide, our upper management at City Hall, we did decide to go ahead and put in place our plan for reopening. So the fitness area and the indoor track are the only things that are opening fitness-wise right away. That will happen on September 3rd. We are only allowed to be open at 10% of capacity. When we meet that moderate benchmark, we would be allowed to be at 25% of capacity. So right now, it's about 15-ish people, or 20 people that can be upstairs in total. We are required to do reservations. That's part of the process, so that way we are guaranteeing that we only have that amount of people. We have put that in place already. People can sign up for 1 hour at a time, and they can do up to 2 days in advance. So they can basically schedule 2 days, and then they call once they want to do the next 2 days. That's for members. Members are able to reserve. Anybody who wants to drop in would have to find out whether or not they'd come, and they'd have to find out that day whether or not there was an opening. And there's not any other really way to do our drop-ins other than for them to get a membership. So a drop-in, it would be a good idea for them to get a membership, but if they don't want to, they can chance either calling ahead of time or coming down. We would have a pretty good idea of the room that we have. We will not be starting group fitness classes until September 14th. We feel that that gives us about a week and a half to be able to see how the reservation process is going, because we will be implementing that most likely for group fitness classes as well. We also wanted to be able to give us a chance to open at this very reduced amount, be comfortable with what we're doing, and then move on from there. The group fitness classes will all be moved to big rooms. So, for example, in the multi-purpose room, we'd have our 10 people. So if it's a room where they need to move around a little bit, we'd be moving them to the gym. They'd be very spread out. So I'd say they're getting 10, 12, 15 feet of physical distancing at all times. The other caveat that we learned that was a little problematic for us, just because it wasn't how we were understanding all the masking early on, is that part of the guidelines and the mandate was that we had to require masks at all times. So we were prepared to be able to do masks while you were in common areas. When you got to your own space, you could take your mask off, especially if you were doing heavy exercise. But that's not the way that the order works. So the Department of Health Services mandated that in order to open, everybody must be wearing a mask at all times. And if you cannot work out heavily with a mask on, then you should wait until a further phase in the process to come to an indoor facility. So they recommend that if somebody can't mask, they should work out outside, or they should do things outside, but not in an indoor facility where there's a chance for community spread. So we will be following that. The only exception for a mask mandate would be if somebody had a true ADA need, and in that case, they'd probably need to wear a shield or some other mechanism. But we reached out to the regional office of the ADA to be able to make sure that we would follow all the guidelines. We definitely want to honor and follow the letter of the law for Americans with Disabilities Act, all of that stuff. But the mask mandate is something that they are saying is a public health mandate, and so people do need to be able to use that. If there are ways that we can accommodate them, we absolutely will figure out a way. If we can't, we will have to go back on to what our mandate is to be open. We also have to do temperature checking. So we had to choose between either temperature checking or screening of members as they came in. So I'd have a little sheet. If any of you have been to the doctor or to Costco, eye doctor, or a lot of places, they ask you a series of questions, and as long as you say no, you don't have any of those, you get to come in. We feel that the temperature check is a quicker, much more less invasive. We talked with our all of our legal teams and with other cities. That's what we are going to be implementing. It's for both staff as well as members as they come in to work out. Basically, everything that goes to the left in the center is considered the fitness area, and they will have temperature checking and masks the entire time. Everybody going to the right, so if they're there for a meeting or they're there for a class, they must wear a mask the whole time, but they're not going to get temperature checked because they are not going to be in a situation where they could be close to other people, or they might be with a different group or something like they might be coming with their own group. Those are kind of the two biggest major things that will be changing at the Multi-Gen Center. We sent out a survey to members ahead of time asking, what if we have to do this? What is your thoughts of coming back? And we had an overwhelming response that they want to come back even if it meant wearing a mask. And so that kind of helped us to lead to our decision. Several fitness centers throughout the state have already opened under the appeal process, and they've all had a week or 2 weeks of doing it with masks, and it's working. And so I think, we're happy to see other people kind of do it first and be able to share with people that it's doable. The things that will not be happening right away, showers are still will not be utilized. We are going to be allowing some lockers. We will be zip tying most of them and leaving only certain physically spaced lockers available that will be fogged every single, periodically through the day and then at the end of the night. Kids Club and Climbing Wall is going to continue to be suspended temporarily so that we can meet our max of capacity of the center, so we can only have a certain amount of people in the center altogether. The game room is closed. The gymnasium for regular stuff is closed. We're not allowed to open those things yet. And the county benchmarks are what we're looking at. So there is a location on the Department of Health Services site that if you just click either on the governor's site or the Department of Health, the Arizona State Department of Health Services, on their page, you can click right to the businesses data. The businesses, I just lost the name in my mind, data something, but it's the benchmarks, and you can kind of see where we are as a county. I think it's really interesting that, in Maricopa County, they met all their criteria, so they implemented a mask mandate, they implemented a lot of different things throughout the county. We don't have a lot of cases, but we have more cases than what we need to have to be able to be at the moderate level, and we don't have those same kinds of things. And so I think it's very interesting to see and to see what is working right now. And so we are going to we're continuing to implement, and we are going to go by the guidelines that the state Department of Health Services and the governor's office has shared with us. That's how we want to operate, because that's kind of the folks that we think know. For the future openings, everything that's going to be happening in the future will completely rely on us meeting the county benchmark. So I just want to share that there can be other things opening. We don't know when those are. We're not going to set a date. It really depends on when we meet that deadline. MGC Fitness Center, it's kind of the biggest one. I won't take questions individually, but for this one, just because it's a big area, is there anything you guys have? Yes.
So for the temperature check, like, because you're walking outside and it's hot outside, is there, like, you come in, you're too high, can you have like a 5-minute break, or if it's one and done?
So it is really just, if you have 100.4, then we'll just say, today, you should talk to your doctor, and you can come back at another time. We have not found that is a difference. So we did test out the infrared temperature check, and that's really not happening so much. So I think if somebody had a case, we'd certainly have a supervisor come out and talk with them and figure out if there was something to be done. But I would just definitely say come cooled off, and come ready to go, because we really can't make judgment calls on that. And whether we think so 100.4 is the mandate from the.
So once you hit that, because I haven't worked out, once you hit that, so then that means you were deferred for at least 2 days, or? You consult your physician, because we don't know what it's for. We're not allowed to give any kind of, we can't claim that it's a symptom of COVID. We don't know that that's what it's for at all. What we'd be saying is that you can't enter today. We recommend that you talk with your healthcare professional, and they basically could come back the next day, and if they don't have a temperature, then they would be able to come in. I have another question. Okay. So in regards to the membership fees, have been reduced, or has there been like a free hold?
So everything has been on hold. So as soon as we went on hold, we suspended all memberships. And so they'll pick up right where they left off. They have the choice that if they don't want, without having group fitness, they could wait to come back. The member is the one who gets to choose when they choose to reactivate their membership. If they would prefer just to get a refund, we've had a few people that wanted a refund, but most people were fine with just holding off and waiting. If they don't feel like there's enough open, then they'd absolutely have the opportunity just to get a refund. So we're not doing any reduction in anything. I will be honest, we are operating we have to have more staff, more cleaning, we had to buy all kinds of things to be able to be ready and open. So the fees to be at our center are the fees that they are, because that's what we need to operate. So yeah, but they have a choice to get a refund if they don't want to do it. Anything else for now? Great questions.
Judy? No?
Okay.
Luciano? Frank? No, I'm good.
So I'm just going to go quickly through these last slides and just share, because you kind of know some of the things we've already been doing. And so if you have something, just throw your hand up so I don't miss you, and ask. Activities and events. So lap swimming is going on right now. Water aerobics is going on right now. We had swimming lessons, but we're closed for the season for a lot of those types of amenities, and swimming lessons were closed whenever pools got closed. But these other two things we're able to keep at the guideline amount: water aerobics and lap swimming. So we've continued those so that people could get in and have exercise and get cooled off of all levels. Small group classes are happening, so small recreational art classes, cooking classes, things like that. They have been able to continue with the 10 and under, and physical distancing. We've started the mask mandate. We've been doing virtual programming, as you all know. All that is online through our Facebook site is the best place to go to for that, to check out fitness videos and all kinds of other things that are going on. Drive-in movies drive-in is really the only way we've done events this year. So driving around for the Easter egg hunt, driving up and drive-in for our 4th of July celebration, which was a huge success, and then our drive-in movies. And so we're doing 2 movies a month right now. We have a partner. SRP is our corporate partner for our movies. They've paid for 12 movies throughout the year, and we are doing all of them right now, and we'll be looking for other ways to continue it. But we're doing 2 movies a month just so that we can have more things for people to do. They're starting to get a little bit more popular. It is warm out, but it's really not that warm. By the time the sun goes down, they've actually been pretty enjoyable. Yes?
Where do you do the drive-in movies at?
So we've been doing them at the rodeo grounds.
Oh,
Um,
that's right.
Yep, and that's been perfect. We have restrooms out there. We're able to keep
Yeah.
all the cars really distanced. You know, it's been hit or miss, some of the movies that we had, but we try to do a little variety, so there might be something of interest for adults as well as families. These two that are coming up are going to be super popular. They're just oldies. Goonies and the Raiders of the Lost Ark have gotten a lot of popularity, so we'll kind of keep going with that. So there'll be 2 movies here in September. We actually have 3 movies planned in October because we're also going to do one tied to Halloween. So that'll be kind of some of the cool things that are happening. A couple of other really quick things on the school virtual classroom. I shared before, as the school was not going back in person and they went to online. We had a location at the MGC because we had all that space and nobody in it. We reassigned some of our staff to open up and to be an online learning site for those families that maybe their parents needed to work during the day, couldn't be at home with their kids for that online learning opportunity. We partnered with we contacted all of the schools that could, sent staff to help, to volunteers, as well as AJUSD provided hotspots for all of the students to be able to have, and then the students already had been checked out laptops and things like that to bring. We have averaged about 20 kids every day, so they can sign up for 1 day, they can sign up for 5 days. Whatever they need based on their parents' work schedule is basically what we've offered. We haven't filled up. The school did additional partnerships with Boys and Girls Club, the Little Prospector down the road, and then the most recent governor order they had to have a learning lab at one of their school facilities. So we've all kind of shared the load in helping families that couldn't afford to be at home with their kids and do online learning.
Is there any more need for that?
I don't think so. So I think what's going to happen, most of the schools are going back to at least hybrid by next week. So some kids will be back in the classroom and being able to do that online opportunity. And then others could stay home if they wanted to. We're going to continue through the rest of the month, and just so that they don't have to switch what they're doing. Then the schools go on fall break here at AJUSD, and so they are planning on in-person when they come back from fall break. They feel like they will be met close to the guidelines. There's been, that's a hugely debated topic, but they are working very hard to find a way to have a safe environment. And they've put a lot of things. I think all of our schools here locally have put a lot of work in during the summer so that they'd be prepared now. And so they're starting to feel, that they're more prepared. I will definitely let anybody if I hear that they need any more. Because they could, the reality is that everybody goes back to normal just like before, and everything spikes, and they're back in their same situation. And so we're just really trying hard. I think everybody's trying to find something consistent for kids. And things that are suspended currently, classes that exceed 10 or more students, large community events and gatherings, our open gym program, you already know that. We didn't have that this summer. We have talked with all the community event planners, and all of them have postponed their event, either canceled or postponed their event. So Festival of Superstitions now, Blues and Brews. Even some of the ones that we'd already heard the Veterans Parade, they've canceled that event. We have canceled we have changed up our Halloween carnival, our mud run, some of our other various smaller things we've changed up a little bit. Halloween is going to be kind of a reverse trunk or treat where people, again, we're really getting good at drive-through stuff. So we'll have stations at all the parks where staff will have a tent. We'll hand out candy that was pre-packaged and pre-prepared safely, and have things for people to search and find throughout the community, but there'll be a map and people can kind of trick or treat to all of those areas, and doing it in a safe and smart way that we've worked on partnering with businesses and our health community. So that's going to be what our Halloween event looks like. We've worked with the police department to make sure that it's well spread out, so there's really good ingress and egress to make sure that there's no backups onto roads or anything like that. And so we feel very confident about a lot of that. We've tried to place them in places like parks where we can weave them around, so that way they don't get out on the road and they're not holding up traffic. But so that's just one example of Halloween event. We will be making a decision by the middle of this month whether we'll be doing our holiday event. But right now, the backup plan is a reverse light parade. We'll be working with the Chamber of Commerce and the business community to really ramp up the jingle in the junction that the Focal Point and Tourism Committee had already started the last couple of years. We'll help them to promote that, and then on the day that we would normally have our light parade, we would be having folks just come down and they could kind of see everything. Everything would be lit up on the same day. We'll be reaching out to some of our past entrants of the light parade entries, and again, staging areas at parks where people can kind of drive through and see all of those entrants. Those entrants would be well spread out amongst the parks so that they're not congregating. But that's sort of our backup plan, and I mean, we're probably 90% sure that that's what we'll have to do. Yes.
You know, if you need any more space, you know.
Awesome.
spread out.
Thank you. And we definitely are looking for other businesses that want to be a location for some of these things, so I will definitely let you know.
And the wellness thing in November?
So the wellness event, we'll be doing a lot, it'll be changing to an entirely virtual format. We will have some small class sizes, so some of the classes that we offered that week that we would normally do the wellness event, we will be offering many free 10 and under classes that people could attend and partake in with those providers. And then a lot of that stuff is going to be going up virtually on our Facebook page. The mud run is going to become a virtual mudless run. They will be sharing some ways for people to have obstacles at their homes and things like that, but they will be given a distance to run, and they'll be able to collect a medal and maybe a shirt or something like that. I haven't heard the final details on that, but we're just kind of trying to keep those events going and making sure that they're fun. I would love to say that we're saving on staff. You know, it requires more staff time to kind of put together some of these things. And as we shared, I know people are disappointed that we're making decisions on things that are not, you know, end of October, maybe December. But now is the time that we have to secure a lot of those vendors, and we have to get businesses, they have to start planning. And so I think everybody's been understanding when we've shared that. I already shared that. Future, so we just learned this week, this isn't something that I felt like was really promoted very well. We've tried to pay attention to when the governor changed his order to saying, you know, we need to stick to 10 and under. But we just saw on the state health department site now that at the very bottom, they are recommending no gatherings larger than 50. And so we have started our process for talking about how can people, especially other groups that want to have reservations and want to do things, what are safe ways that we're going to allow them to start looking at that. So we're working on that, as well as larger class sizes based on physical distancing. So our feeling is that as long as we can physically distance and either have masks or be outside, that we will continue to start to find ways that we can grow back into some of the programs that we had. We'll get to it next here in a minute. Youth and adult sports is a great example of something that is hard to do with only 10 or less. We have been very successful in all of our sports clinics this year. Went really well because that was the only thing to do for youth. So we've done that. We will continue to. Our adult golf league is the only adult league that is going on right now. But we do have plans that our league that would normally start in November, we are planning on moving forward with registration and a lot of protocols in place. Many of the other cities, we've kind of worked together with all the other cities to find out kind of what they've been doing and what they plan to do. But as of now, we plan on having a fall softball league, pickleball league, and pickleball tournament. We will be implementing some strategies for scheduling games, so that way only the two teams that are playing each other kind of have contact. We'll have double headers where the team plays each other twice, you know, the same team, so that way they're not having that chance for spread. There will be things like masking in certain situations, but also physical distancing when possible. Adults kind of can decide that for themselves, we feel like, and so we can, and I don't mean about whether they're going to do things or not, but they can decide whether they want to participate in a program with those stipulations happening. As we think about youth, that's a little different, and we are just kind of taking a little bit more time to think about what we're going to be doing for the fall youth leagues and tournaments. Right now, the clinics are successful, and we'll continue that. But we did not do our T-ball and Coach Pitch League. That got canceled at the time. Flag football would be next. We did a survey out to all of our youth sport, anybody who's ever done a youth sports league with us received an email survey, and we asked their thoughts on flip-flopping our flag football league, which is a little bit more, so it's flag football, so it's not major contact, but they have to kind of be at a line together. They do have to get close to pull flags. They do have a lot more close contact. So we're trying to really think of the things where you can be most of the time physically distanced is what we're doing. And so soccer is a little bit more distanced. And so we had a lot of great feedback that they'd be willing to switch the season this year. And so we are considering that. So that's what future means. It's not for sure yet. Senior services, nothing has changed. We're doing drive-through lunches, home-delivered meals, transportation for medical and shopping trips. And then I just listed to you how many we've served under this new guidance since about mid-March. So that's what those numbers are. It's really, usually our congregate meal is our big high number, and that's kind of who these people represent. And our home-delivered meals is a very tiny number, but we definitely increased that number a lot in this new situation. And then we're still continuing to do the well phone checkups. We suspended in-person lunch and also in-person programs and activities. We are working with Penal-Gila, I just lost it, Penal-Gila Council for Senior Citizens. They are our major partner in this. They operate all of the senior centers throughout the valley of when will it be safe to come back? What are going to be our plans? Parks and outdoor spaces. We've already kind of talked about that earlier on of what's open. The only thing that's suspended right now is the large group facility reservations. And so again, we're considering that with our 50 and under rule right now. And then all reservations right now, we require the entity, the group that's reserving the park, they have to sign our waiver, and there is a COVID waiver saying that they will follow the state guidelines and that they are responsible for the people in their group following them. So that was kind of in a nutshell all the reopening stuff. This last little part is about, I just wanted to share with you how we've reassigned staff. So again, I think there's a perception that our recreation staff just got off scot-free and that they're either not working or they're just sitting around. And definitely when you're opening and closing, that's for sure not happening. But in addition, some of those that didn't have as much programming going on, we did find some things that were really needed in the community. And so we did reassign a few staff. So Gary Gartner, he's our sports coordinator. He is still working on sports, but in addition, he took the lead on census outreach. So he's responsible for all the signage that's going out, a lot of the door hangers that went out so that we can really promote census. And then the hydration challenge. So collecting water for those in need, that's something that United Way and other entities had taken the lead on in previous years. There was nobody really to take that on this year. We learned early on in the summer, the police department, Chief Kelly had let us know that, and we tried to brainstorm some ideas of how we could implement it. The police department and the fire department heavily rely on this because they take that water out, and when they are on calls, they are giving it to either individuals that are homeless, individuals that are in a home without any kind of air conditioning or might be in need. So pretty much most of the businesses in the community were very supportive. Dolce Vita was one site that just really went crazy on fundraising and trying to help out, but we were able to secure lots of pallets of water, and those have been distributed, so we've had more than enough water for the group. Salvation Army and some of those other groups, they have their own, they also had some simultaneous drives going on. Salvation Army has been really great about having water for us when we needed it, and now we're able to kind of share all that out there. So he did a great job on that. Jeff Kopp, who generally does our special events and our special interest stuff, he took over the virtual classroom, so he coordinated all of that with the school district and all of the staff, and then all of our staff that kind of work it. And then we had various emergency response duties allocated to our rec supervisors and then our park ranger supervisor. And then I think this is the last one. In addition, we basically farmed out our rec staff to help other departments in need. And so these are just kind of the hours that were contributed by recreation leaders, both full-time and part-time staff that we wanted to make sure had a little bit of hours. these departments all needed stuff, and they needed people to be able to do these jobs, and so we were able to be a resource for them. So 2,580 total hours since March were farmed out to something other than the recreation division by those staff, and so we're really proud of those folks kind of taking that on. It's a lot of information, but at least you could look at it and you can see it later if you need to. Do you have any questions?
Anybody with
Great
questions?
job.
Thank
I don't
you.
think we have questions, Liz. Now, we also, on the schedule, folks, there is no new business. Do we have any new business that you want to put on for next time? Heather, Jesse, Frank, Luciano,
No.
Judy?
That's in the request for future agenda items.
Oh, that's down there more. Sorry, it's a Biden
No,
moment.
it's okay. Just, when you start seeing the new business, it made you think that, do we have anything for next time?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, so I'll move to the next item, which is call to the public. We do have a new face back there, behind Liz. So you don't have any questions? Oh, okay.
Welcome.
Well, we have the call to the public segment, and I wanted to see if you wanted to talk. Okay, that covers all these items right there. We've done requests for future agenda items. Okay, at this point, I will then adjourn this meeting at 7:28. We are adjourned, folks.